Good afternoon to our honorary degree recipients, alumni, and trustees, to our faculty and to our staff, to our parents, family members, and friends, and most especially to our graduates. Welcome to the Johns Hopkins University Commencement for the great class of 2019. So, class of 2019, you have made it. You have evolved from your first timid steps around the Johns Hopkins seal to the people you are today. You are wiser, you are bolder, you are more discerning. You now know with certain confidence that the harder you pound your keyboard, the harder you are working. We know this to be true. During your time here, you developed not only specialized skills, but also keen insight and exceptional powers of observation. I know that not one of you missed the errant Starbucks cop in the House of Winterfell. Now, graduates, you are about to say to Johns Hopkins, thank you next. And we're good with that. We get it. It's time for you to move on, having gotten all that you could have from this relationship. But before it's over, I have the privilege of speaking with you one last time. Now, it turns out the culmination of your Hopkins careers coincides with a milestone of my own. I've now been at Hopkins for a full 10 years. Like you, my time here has been marked by more poignant experiences than I can count, both personally and professionally. But there is one in particular that has stayed with me. A time when the personal and the professional collided in a way that was, to put it mildly, quite momentous. It happened in the fall of 2009, my own freshman year at Hopkins. Now, like a typical first year, I was busy learning my way around and getting to know the people whose remarkable achievements fuel this amazing place that is Hopkins. And as part of my orientation, I had the opportunity to go on the behind-the-scenes tour of operating rooms at the great Johns Hopkins Hospital. I donned scrubs and entered the operating room of a master surgeon, one of the legendary surgeons at Johns Hopkins, John Cameron, who was performing a procedure that day called the Whipple on a patient with a deadly cancer. Now, the Whipple is a notoriously long, technically demanding, and extremely risky surgery. John Cameron devoted his career to perfecting it. It was because of his singular efforts that the procedure's mortality rate at major teaching hospitals across this country decreased from over 25% when he started operating to just 2%. He did that in a period of decades. And at Johns Hopkins, the mortality rate is now less than 1%. Little did I know that day that I would soon be on the receiving end of that surgery. You see, several weeks after my visit to his operating room, I began to start losing weight. At first, I tried to write it off as the result of skipping meals, moving too fast to keep pace with a new job. But the continued weight loss soon became too much to ignore, and I went to see the folks at Johns Hopkins Medicine. And they confirmed my worst fears as they delivered the news to my wife Joanne and I. Most likely you've got stage 4 pancreatic cancer, but we won't know for sure until we perform a Whipple in a month's time. As my wife Joanne and I left the meeting with the doctors, she asked me, "How you doing? You okay?" And I replied, yeah, all things considered, but I'm concerned that because of my position at the university, the docs were coddling me. They were holding something back. And Joanne paused and said with her trademark poise and impeccably dry wit, "You know there's not a stage 5, right? Fast forward 10 years. We can laugh about this now. Fast forward 10 years. As you can tell, I was one of the truly lucky ones. I more than survived my Whipple procedure. I counsel you not to get one unless you really need one. But we got through it, and while my condition was not to be taken lightly, what I had was not pancreatic cancer. But the prognosis, the wait, the whole experience was overwhelming and life-altering. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Not the highly stressful, but still garden variety disappointments and failures. The grade that you deserved, but that you did not get. That's very much a Hopkins story. The coveted job or the spot in the graduate program that you lost to the competition. The new relationship that ended before it really began. You get the picture. What I'm talking about are the searing physical, psychological, or emotional body blows that leave you simply gasping for breath. The episodes that come out of seemingly nowhere and totally upend, totally shatter your world. These moments inflict real pain. They create deep loss, and they leave scars. Now, in my case, the scars were both literal and metaphorical. My literal scar runs 6 inches down my abdomen. I know, I measured it for this speech. We are, if nothing else, at Hopkins committed to facts and data. I want it to be accurate. I'm not going to share the robe doesn't undo easily, so I'm not showing you the actual scar, but trust me. At first, the scar was nagging. It was a nagging, undeniable reminder of that time of total terror and anxiety. And so, you'll understand that I wanted that scar to disappear. I was determined to move on. I wanted no trace, no memory of that very dark time. But of course, that's not possible. Scars have a way of making their presence felt and seen. Now, our med school graduates will tell you that scars harness the same material as normal tissue, collagen, but they form at an accelerated rate and a different pattern. Think emergency tire patch. They're strong, but they're never a seamless facsimile of our skin. Scars heal us, but they mark us permanently and change us profoundly. So, why share, or you might say overshare, this with you today? The truth is that all of us have, or will have in time, scars from life's traumas. No one, truly no one, escapes unscathed. Some scars are visible, others form on the inside. The unseen responses to psychological and emotional wounds born of crushing grief, wrenching personal tragedy, or economic devastation. And if we're fortunate, over time, a scar stops being a marker of one's past pain or one's inherently fragile claim to a long life and becomes instead a symbol of something more. A scar is a beacon calling to mind the moments when we see most clearly what matters most to us, making lifelong friends like the ones who I'm sure are graduating with you today, or spending your life with a soulmate who is willing to be married to you for 20, 30 years later, and kids who are willing to be seen with you ever. Or landing, as I did, a dream job that is truly not a job, but a calling, surrounded by truly extraordinary people in a truly extraordinary place in a truly extraordinary time. The scar is also a reminder of the moments of personal despair are at once exceptional and yet profoundly ordinary. In this, they call upon us to think beyond ourselves. In my case, I confronted the reality that while in the worst moments, I might be denied decades of expected life, I also knew well how fortunate I was that I had already surpassed in both longevity and material comfort the lives of so many across our globe. And finally, a scar can be an invocation to hopefulness, a call to allow ourselves, in the words of psychiatrist George Valent, to remember the future, so that we can make it through the present and find ourselves stronger and ready to invest in the days to come. As you leave here, know that the scars you carry, or will in time carry, need not diminish you. They can offer you the perspective, the strength, the equanimity to face more and do more than you ever dreamed possible. They can expand the circumference of your own empathy and understanding. They can clarify what inspires you. And above all, they can connect you powerfully to the people who matter most. And today, graduates, you matter most. To the great class of 2019, we are so very proud of each and every one of you. We can't wait to see what will come next. Godspeed.